We're live. Okay. Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. It is a beautiful Friday here in Mexico. What's today? The 17th? November 17th. Beautiful November 17th. Breezes blowing and um, just want to take a moment to be grateful. You know, I live my life from a place of gratefulness, and it has made such a huge impact on how I view life, how I show up every day, how I experience life, and I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that I can see and hear and speak and feel and taste my coffee. I'm not being fed intravenously through a tube in my stomach. I can feel the cool breeze on my skin. I can go outside and get sun. Some people who are confined to a bed or a wheelchair, they can't do that. And I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful, and it makes me so happy. I'm grateful for Wi-Fi, that I can come on here live. The people out in Gaza who are experiencing war right now. I heard that they turned off the internet. Mind blown. And it's a reminder to wake up gratefully and be grateful for so many things that we have privilege for, that we might sometimes overlook and not realize that it's a privilege, and it's a beautiful thing to have that in our world. But on the flip side, today I'm going to talk about fear versus anxiety. um Fear, it could be a crippling things, you know a lot of people describe fear as false evidence appearing real, right? And a lot of people don't know that I'm coming from a legal background, and my view on evidence is that you need it to prove your case. And sometimes that evidence is factual, sometimes not so factual, right? Sometimes not so factual. And there's a lot of like fabricated evidence that, or because of how we perceive the evidence, we can twist it around to fit the narrative that we are representing in that moment. So evidence could be false, it could be real, it could be perceived as real. It's all in how you put it in relativity to the thing that you're trying to achieve. So, if you evidence is often perceived as factual, but can you imagine how many people are put behind jail, put behind bars, and imprisoned for factual evidence of their guilt, and sometimes they're innocent. So when I talk about false evidence appearing real, that's kind of the mindset I want you guys to take around it, or that's the kind of mindset that I take around it. The evidence that shows up in our lives that we we perceive as real, or we give it so much value that we think it's real and it can affect us. That is fear. Um, and there's a difference between fear and anxiety. Okay, so for example, the definition of fear is a natural evolved response to a threat, right? A natural evolved response to a threat. So for example, you're walking on the road and you see a coil, uh and immediately you start saying, "Oh, there's a snake. Oh, I'm fearful." But as you walk closer to that thing and you see that it's just a pile of rope that's just coiled, and somebody left it there, your fear begins immediately to diminish, right? But on the flip side, anxiety does the opposite. Anxiety triggers, like the awfulizing, or making something catastrophic in your mind. Now every time I see something that appears to be a snake, I'm going to freak out, even though I know that it might be a pile of rope. You know what I mean? And anxiety triggers that what if. What if it's a snake? What if it jumps out and bite me? What if, it doesn't, and oftentimes it goes to the negative. It's not if it's not what if I just walk past the snake and nothing happens. Anxiety looks for that awfulizing, that making it catastrophic, making it the worst case scenario. That's what anxiety does. Anxiety builds the perceived situation to, bigger and more awful than it really is, you know. Oh, I got a cut on my finger now. Oh my god, I'm going to get a staph infection. Oh my god, I'm going to get my blood is going to get poisoned and I'm going to die because you got pricked by a little um thorn. It's that way of our brain over overcompensating or doing the most to actualize negative things in our mind. And as the difference between fear and anxiety is that, we fear is natural, and fear, you can overcome fear when you um realize that the threat isn't as high as you thought. With anxiety, it's an inability to um realize that the threat is not immediate. So when I'm faced with anxiety, I have to ask myself, what the hell are you really afraid of? What's getting you? Why are you in reality? Come on, let's bring us ourselves back to reality. What is the perceived fear? What are the actual facts, the real evidence? What are you really afraid of? There's no dinosaurs or saber-toothed tigers out to get us anymore. So what are we afraid of? And a lot of times we're afraid of some of those intangible things, some of those um uh things that we create in our minds. And I'm no psychologist. I'm just a woman who experiences anxiety every now and again and have been learning to cope with anxieties. For example, um I used to have a fear of leaving my house. And I can laugh about it now because now I want to leave my house. Although I love being home and being in my own space and I'm comfortable there, I love going out and meeting my friends and doing something, fun. Before, the thought of going out used to cripple me, used to make me feel like I don't want to leave my house. I don't even want to go grocery shopping. I don't want to do anything. My friends would invite me out and I don't want to go because of some perceived invisible threat or that I made up in my mind. And once I started really focusing on, Sheree, what are you really afraid of? Are you afraid of talking to people? Are you afraid of, how they might see you, how they might look at you, how they might judge you? Are you really afraid of that? You know? Are you afraid of getting in an accident? How often have you gotten in an accident? Why aren't you considering the things that are most evident, not the what ifs? Why are you, that's what I'm talking to myself. Why are you not considering the things that are actual facts in your life? How many times have you gone out and nothing happened? How many times have you gone out and you had an amazing time? How many times, have you gone out and everything went as planned? And more often than not, that's what happens. You go out and it's just like what you expected, what you planned, because you will bring into your life what you expect, what you imagine, what you think of, what you dwell on. That's what's going to happen in your immediate, in your life. The things that you bring in from, you know from your thoughts and your feelings, those are the things that you're going to experience. You and I might be experiencing the same thing, but because we're having different feelings or emotions around that thing, our experiences of that thing might be might be different. For example, I love to drive. I love driving. And another person might have to drive, right? I have to drive, you have to drive, but I love driving. Another person might be so fearful of driving, So maybe you have to drive 10 miles, and I just zoops get to my 10 miles in no time. And the person who's afraid of driving is like going slow, and maybe missed their turn, or incapable of merging into the traffic on on the on ramp. You know what I mean? And their experience of the drive is not good because of their mindset around driving. And so I said that to say that fear is created in ourselves. It's a bad management of your mindset. It's how you train your mind how to perceive things, how do I get it, an understanding of what's going on in my mind. um so we have to I have to I had to learn how to manage my thoughts, and I had to learn how to um really give my feelings a hierarchy, and value the level of experiences that I was having. Is this a low level experience? Am I There's no threat, there's no need to over exaggerate or exert a lot of adrenaline at this moment? Or is it up here, actually up here, where I need to run away, hide? And oftentimes we never hit that max up there, because we live in a day and age that is oftentimes safer than what we our ancestors, separate separate from what's going on the other side of the world. But for those of us who are still in a safe space, a safe country, um that perceived danger is not there. I'm not talking about those people who are experiencing that, because they're constantly on my mind, in my prayers, and the difference that we experience and the fears that we have are not theirs. So I say that to say there's three types of fear that we in the modern world experience. Three types of fear: fear of loss, fear of the process, and fear of the outcome. And those are the three that I have identified. All right, so fear of loss is, you know, what it's what you have to give up to pursue the thing that you're going after. For example, I'm an entrepreneur. When I first decided to quit law and my job, and I had crazy fear, crazy anxiety about losing my health insurance, and being responsible for Melody's insurance, and um not paying towards the 401k, and then I start to develop the understanding that I can make enough money to pay for insurance. I can still contribute to my 401k, and my retirement and my savings. I can still do all of that. And the fear of loss can be crippling. Like if you're in a relationship and it's a toxic relationship, the fear of losing maybe the little bit of love that's coming in, or the money that's supporting you, or the help or the assistance to move on to a new relationship, that in itself could be crippling. The fear of loss, the fear of failure, and to lose it, it can be really well. That's more of the outcome, but the fear that you're gonna the that you have to give up something to pursue that dream, that's the fear of loss. The fear of the process is thinking, oh, I don't know enough, I don't know what to do, I don't have the skills, it's hard, it's going to take too long. What's the process going to be like? Am I going to be able to handle it? Am I going to be able to thrive? um but you know what? Success is in the process. It's in those little tiny wins along the way. It's it it happens as you move through the process, and you grow and you become better as you move through the process. So the fear of the process is the fear of the action, the fear of the hard work, the fear of what it's going to take for you to realize that goal. That could be crippling, not knowing where to start, what to do, what is it really going to take out of me to pursue this, to pursue the goal that I'm looking at. That's the fear of the process. And the fear of the outcome is, what if I fail? You know, what if the grass isn't greener on the other side? What if, it hurts? Was it worth the risk? I'm doing all of this. Is it going to be worth it? Um, you know, and another part of the fear of the outcome is, what if I actually succeed? What if I actually started shining, and people think, oh, you're doing too much, or they become threatened by your success, and you lose friends, and what's going to happen? What's the outcome going to be? And that could be so crippling, not knowing what what the end result is going to be. But don't focus on the end result, focus on those incremental steps towards the goal. And because those three types of fear, the fear of loss, the fear of the process, and the fear of the outcome, those are the three most popular types of fears that really cripple us from getting started. But a bit of context around fear, um and anxiety is strengthened by avoidance. So the more you avoid thing that you fear or you're anxious about, it's the more it's the larger it's going to grow. It's the more important it's going to get, because you're pushing it off, giving it strength, telling it you're better, that the thing that you fear is better than yourself. For example, I give you a quick example. When Melody was a little girl, I took her to do ballet, and she hated it. She cried. She she was okay during the ballet, but when she had to put on the jazz shoes, she was like, I'm not having this. She sat in the middle of the dance floor and cried. And as a mom, I wanted to just take her out, and that's what I did. I took her home. I said, okay, baby girl, you don't like dance? It's that hard? It's that whatever? You never have to dance again. Y'all, the next week, I don't remember what she had to do the next week. And she was like, "Oh, mommy, I'm scared. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it." And then, that's when I realized that this is a pattern. If I allow her to say that she's scared and she doesn't have to do it, then that reinforces her will to take action against her fears and against her anxiety. So what I tell her to do now, I say, you got to do it afraid then. If it scares you, do it afraid. If you are scared to jump in that pool, still jump in that pool. Assess the risk. There's no way that you're going to die. There's no way that you're going to drown. Your mom is standing here. The pool is only 4 feet. Nothing is going to happen to you that'll be detrimental, and yet you're still afraid. Do it scared and see what happens. And that has been the stance that I've been taking day in, day out with her. And now, yesterday, Melody's in a musical right now, and she's learning choreography right now, and singing on stage right now, which makes me so proud. Because if I had allowed that mindset of I'm scared, I can't do it. I remember the first day of practice for Melody, for the musical. She was reading her lines like this, and barely could take her eyes off of the book, and really just uh give it her all. Now now that we're a couple months in, she's doing phenomenal. And that's the thing about fear. You have to attack fear with action. Do something, and it's not going to be perfect the first time you take action. It's still going to be scary, but every time you take action against your fear, it becomes a you chip away at it a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. You chip away at that fear to reveal the courage that's inside of you to approach the things that you fear. And how do you actually face fear? How do you Okay, so um for example, you're not going to take on fear, do it head on and just go for it. Some people are like that, but sometimes it takes an incremental steps. For example, if you are afraid of driving, right, and getting behind the wheel, maybe you got in a really bad auto accident and before, and your fear of driving is legitimate. Your fear of driving is based on your experience that you had in the past, but yet you still have to get behind the wheel. You still have to drive and be able to get around and live your life, and the freedom that comes with driving. So you say to yourself, okay, maybe one day I'll just sit in the driver's seat, rev the engine a little bit, put on my seatbelt, adjust my seat, adjust my mirror, get used to how the car feels from this point of view, from the driver's seat point of view. How does that feel? Then maybe the next day, maybe you back it out of the garage and just put it back in. You're building up a little bit, building up a little bit. Then maybe you take it to an open lot where there's no obstructions and you can just whip it around the open lot, and you do that for a couple times, a couple days or whatever. And it's building up your courage. You're remembering how, to accelerate, to brake, to change the gear if it's a manual car. You're building that courage up in yourself again. Then maybe you take it out on a residential street where there's only like little stop signs and not very many um other cars, and you can go slow and no one's gonna honk you. And then maybe you take it out on, where there's traffic, and maybe a red light, green light, or whatever kind of thing. And then maybe you can get on the highway and do interstate driving, or international driving. I've driven from Florida to Mexico to the Yucatan, 5 days of driving, but I love driving. Other people might see that and be so scared of, oh my God, you drove across the border? What are you doing? But it's, I had to build up to get to that, to get to that person that I am today. It's not just one day I picked up myself and say, I'm going to do all of these things. I had to incrementally grow into the woman that I'm becoming. And just like how that kind of example of, backing out the car, or sitting in the car, revving it up, backing it out, um taking it out to an open lot, then going on a residential street, then maybe your neighborhood traffic, and then maybe out on the highway. Those are some steps that we can take to build up to attack the fear. So we attack fear by incremental, addressing the fear incrementally, chipping away at it a little by little. um and we have to do it head on. We have to be intentional about addressing the fears in our life. It's difficult, but not impossible. It's difficult but not impossible. And just the last three things I want to talk about is the intentional and gradual process. What does that look like? How to face the fears? There's three things that I've come up with: name and reject your fear, reprogram your mind, and rebuild your brain through action. And I kind of touched on all of them, but name and reject your fear. What am I afraid of? This is the process that you take when you're here. Ask yourself, what am I afraid of? What thoughts are surrounding your fears? A lot of self That's a lot of self searching. Where does it come from? Is it my childhood? Am I, what experiences that brought me to this place to make me so fearful of this? And realizing that maybe others are not fearful of that because there's no perceived threat to them, you know but you have to name and reject that fear. Two, reprogram your mind around it. Reprogram your mind around it. In relativity, what relative to the fear, what are my emotions behind that fear and why? You know, how do I perceive this threat? You know, on a computer, when you wipe a computer, you reboot it, it's a brand new machine. Afterwards, you wipe it, all the information is clean. Dump all those negative thoughts, renew your mind. Transformation comes by the renewing of your mind. You have to reprogram your mind. Give yourself new thoughts. Oh, I can do anything. I'm strong. I'm smart. I Everything is available to me. I have abundance. I can face all of my fears. I can do anything through Christ who strengthens me. The world is my oyster. Um you know, the way will be may become clear. I will go out with courage. I will pursue, you know, I will pursue with courage. I will fail, but I will get back up. Every failure is a success. Every failure is a step closer. You know what I mean? And reprogram your mind around the things that you fear. I used to fear speaking. I used to fear speaking, and it stemmed from when I was a little girl. My father put me in these pageants, and if you guys knew me when I was a little girl, I was the antithesis of girly girl, girly pageant girl. I was baggy shorts, cornrows, no purse holding, no lip gloss wearing, just tomboy. You know, football playing, flag football playing. I used to play flag football at school, and I was a real tomboy. I was a real tomboy. And my father was like, "No, you're gonna try this pageant, my girl." And I went up there and froze in front of all those people. And it was so disheartening to me. And I didn't at that time I didn't have the coping mechanisms to deal with that. And then there was another incident when I was in middle school where I was supposed to sing the national anthem. In chorus, I would kill it in chorus, you know, sing my heart out in chorus. And the teacher was like, "Yeah, you're gonna do it for the pep rally." And I was like, "Yeah." I was trying to build myself up, trying to build myself up. The day that the when the pep rally came and I got on that stage, I froze. Nothing came up. Nothing came up. I could just hear the teacher in the background saying, "Cherie, Cherie," and then someone else had to come and sing it. And that stayed with me for so long into my adulthood, till the point where I had to start reprogramming my mind and start to love my voice, start to love hearing myself speak, love to reassure myself that what I have to say is valuable, what I should respect my own voice. And before, I used to make these videos, just a personal video diary for myself. And then I started, you know, putting it out there, and nobody was watching it, and it was okay for me. That was the next step, because I was kind of afraid once people started watching it what it would become, and you know, would I still have the courage to do it once I know someone was actually watching me. So it's easier when there's, you know, it was easier when nobody's watching. But then I slowly built up the courage to start putting myself out there, you know, and that's just the next step. And I'm not saying that, you know, that's where it is, but I'm reprogramming my mind around the goals that I have, you know. And the last thing is to just build your brain through action. Do the damn thing. Do the damn thing. You know, similar to muscle memory, the brain has like neural pathways that we have instilled and ingrained in our minds over and over and over again. We have to literally go against the grain, go against the thought that you have been thinking for the last 20 years. It's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing to shut down those thoughts that have been constantly replaying in your brain. But once you become conscious of that, and you name and say, you identify that fear and say, "Oh, I don't have to have a fear of speaking in public or speaking to people, or I don't have to have a fear of leaving my house or doing things that I've never done before, doing hard things. I don't have to do that anymore. I can attack it through action. I can just do it and see what happens. I can just, um, you know, when we have fear and anxiety, it paralyzes the problem solving ability. It paralyzes your ability to be creative and to brainstorm and to find solutions and to find the actions needed to overcome that fear. So yeah, I only want to be on here for 30 minutes, and I'm coming up to 30 minutes. So that's all I have for you guys today. But just don't let fear cripple you. Easy to say, maybe not so easy to live, but intentionally, if you go out and do the thing intentionally to say, okay, I'm fearful of this, I'm feeling some anxiety around that, identify it, and then reprogram your mind, do some self searching. Why am I afraid? Is this fear valid? How do I get over it? If it is valid, how do I get over it? Because everything is get overable, everything is figure outable, everything you can think of is you can move on from it. And if you approach life from that point of view, you'll see the miraculous difference that you can bring into your life, and build through action. Do the damn thing, do the thing that you are most fearful of, so you can destroy fear, because fear is false. You can have a fear of something today and incrementally grow and get over your fear by a year, a month, a week. You can do it. And I would love if you guys, put in the comments about, maybe something that you're fearful of. And let's see if we have like the same fears around certain things, and how you plan to get over it, how you plan to take action around it. I'd love to connect with some of you guys, love to with all of you guys, and girls, and to really build a community where it's a safe space to speak about these things and to speak about the things that we're all struggling with, so let me hear from you guys. I'd love to hear from you guys, and like, share, and subscribe. Love you.